91% of the major anxieties we experience in our entire lives never actually happen in reality. Yet we still spend our brief existence exhausting our minds, trying to control every single one of them. If your ultimate spiritual security hangs only on the thin thread of your own fragile efforts, could you truly enjoy peace for even a single second? What is it that actually holds us together when every earthly foundation completely crumbles and darkness settles in? I used to believe that life was just a logical series of personal decisions where I had to keep an iron grip on the steering wheel at all times. But I vividly remember a freezing winter night many years ago when my small business went completely bankrupt and my closest friend walked away without a word. I sat completely motionless in the pitch dark of my empty room for hours. My self-confidence was shattered into microscopic pieces, and I realized that all self-help philosophies are entirely useless when a real storm arrives. You see, we often live with the arrogant assumption that if we just try harder, we can bridge the gap between our failures and a holy standard. But when the floor beneath you vanishes, you quickly discover that your own faith is just as volatile as your changing emotions. We are often like an exhausted climber desperately clinging to a crumbling rock ledge in a freezing blizzard, watching our own fingers slowly slip away. The book of Romans was not written for people relaxing in comfortable chairs, but for broken believers who were literally groaning under the weight of severe suffering. They were weak, they were waiting, and they often did not even know what they should pray for in their deepest moments of agony. It is precisely in the middle of this absolute human helplessness that the ancient text introduces an unbreakable cosmic reality. When I first read this ancient letter many years ago, the final link in this spiritual chain made me stop completely in deep skepticism. The writer deliberately uses the word glorified in the past tense, as if this ultimate, perfect future transformation has already fully happened. How could someone like me, who still battles internal flaws, sudden anger and selfishness every single day, be considered already glorified? It felt deeply unreasonable, like a psychological coping mechanism or a form of spiritual self-delusion, and I struggled bitterly to accept it. But as I meditated on the text through my own seasons of failure, I realized that the divine courtroom does not operate within our fragile, linear human time. When the ultimate author decrees a purpose before the universe exists, the ending is so mathematically certain that it is spoken of as a finished historical fact. This beautiful certainty forces us to look at the link right before it, which is the profound reality of justification. You see, you are not declared righteous by the cosmic judge because you finally managed to have a perfect, flaw-free week. You are declared righteous because the ultimate price was paid in full by another, satisfying cosmic justice once and for all. I used to think I had to earn my way into this safety, but my own moral bankruptcies proved I could never pay the debt. Think of a master architect who gazes intently at the flawless three-dimensional digital model of a grand palace he designed. To him, that palace is already fully completed, perfect and magnificent inside his creative mind. He sees the finished beauty and celebrates the final structure, even while the actual construction site below remains a chaotic mess of mud, dust, and broken bricks. In the very same way, the divine gaze looks at your broken, messy present reality, but sees the completed masterpiece that cannot fail to appear. Every single person who is legalistically justified in the present hour is already guaranteed to stand in absolute splendor at the end of the age. This profound shift in our standing before the Creator brings us directly to the third link, which is the divine calling. I firmly believe that human beings are completely incapable of seeking spiritual reality on their own initiative unless the Creator acts first. We are far too deaf to the beautiful realities of heaven to awaken ourselves from our own internal state of spiritual numbness. Many people assume that faith is a natural human capacity that we can simply turn on and off whenever we please. But my own journey of constant struggle has taught me that we cannot even muster a single ounce of genuine desire without divine grace. According to my view, this cosmic call is not a polite invitation for you to casually consider when you finally feel ready. Instead, it is an effective, sovereign command that instantly brings a dead spirit back to life and changes the human heart forever. It is the very same powerful voice that spoke into the dark, empty void of the universe and commanded light to exist. Think of a complex radio receiver completely buried under thousands of layers of loud static and chaotic earthly noise. The machine itself is totally incapable of filtering out the loud, distracting environment to find the right station. But when the broadcasting station sends out a specific, predetermined frequency designed exactly for that machine, something incredible happens. The internal filter automatically resonates with the signal and locks onto the beautiful music perfectly without any power to refuse it. That is exactly how the message of love enters a human heart, breaking through all thick walls of internal resistance. It does not force you against your will, but it beautifully changes your deepest desires so that you run toward the light. Every single person who is sovereignly called by this beautiful whisper is guaranteed to step into the reality of justification. This ultimate security automatically directs our attention back to the very first two links of this profound reality, which are predestination and foreknowledge. I used to struggle intensely with the heavy concept of predestination. There were bitter nights when I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if all my private pain and tears were just parts of a cruel pre-written script. I felt a deep, quiet anger toward the Creator during those seasons of confusion. But through the crushing weight of my own painful trials, I finally understood that being foreknown and predestined is actually the protective embrace of a loving Father before his child ever steps into the valley of deep shadow. He does not predestine your human suffering to torment you, but he predestines your final glorious destination so that your current pain is never meaningless. This beautiful truth brings to mind the ancient story of Joseph, who was thrown into a dark Egyptian dungeon by his own flesh and blood. Every single physical scar and every year of lonely, unjust imprisonment was not a chaotic accident outside the divine plan. Instead, those dark moments were the necessary dark ink used to write a grand masterpiece of salvation that would eventually rescue an entire nation from death. This complete, eternal divine blueprint guarantees an absolute security that does not depend on the shifting sands of our human emotions. I am entirely convinced that our ultimate salvation does not depend on how tightly our frail, trembling human hands hold onto the Creator. Instead, it depends completely and exclusively on how securely his almighty, sovereign hand holds onto us through the dark. When you look closely at this unbreakable chain, you realize that not a single person is lost between the eternal past and the glorious future. The exact same individuals who were foreknown before the foundation of the world are the very ones who are brought safely into eternal honor. This foundational truth allows us to look directly at the darkest storms of life and confidently ask, who can ever separate us from this love? Neither physical death nor life, neither our present painful struggles, nor our future unknown uncertainties have the power to break this bond. There is absolutely no condemnation, no cosmic charge, and no spiritual power that can ever snatch you out of his sovereign hand. Think of a loving father holding his small, terrified child firmly by the wrist while crossing a dangerous, shaking suspension bridge in a massive storm. The frightened child might panic, become completely exhausted, and eventually loosen his own tiny, weak fingers from his father's hand. Yet the child will never fall into the raging canyon below, because the immense, loving grip of the Father remains entirely unshakable. Our faith may waver, and our strength will certainly fail, but his covenant faithfulness is an anchor that can never be moved. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please subscribe to the channel to join us for the next deep, life-changing study.